Hi, and welcome to another video on my channel on the vagus nerve. Today I'm going to open up and discuss a little bit around the key requirements or the key things that I believe to be pillars in terms of managing better health, better lifestyle, and ultimately improving your vagal tone, your heart rate variability, and as a consequence, shifting you further away from that fight and flight stage and into a more rested parasympathetic state. And I'm guessing if you're here, you've probably had some sense of feeling stuck inside that cycle of stress, the exhaustion, the feeling low, no matter how much you try to change or implement. I think most people come to my content after they've explored a whole raft of other areas. And that was certainly the case for me. When I was chronically stressed and stuck, I needed to find a path. Back then in 2015, there wasn't one. Vagus nerve wasn't spoken about. I happened to stumble across it, found a couple of really old books, got into the neuroscience, and started to build some tools and platform for myself to improve. And as a consequence, over the years, I share that, and I share that with clients, and I share that with people that I work with. But in the course of this channel, I want to try and share those ideas and those ways of recovery and getting closer to understanding you, simpler in your mind and easier for you to navigate. Because let's be fair, we weren't given the manual on how to navigate this bag of flesh that we're walking around in. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to navigate that space. And I think the key thing that I want to get across today are we're going to talk about three tools, three approaches in particular. But I also want to make it clear that most folks try these things for a few days and then they stop. They think change should be quick, but lasting change and lasting actions take daily actions, and daily consistently that becomes weekly consistency and monthly consistency. My mantra is wake up every day, show up for yourself every day, and do the work that's needed to get well and stay well every day. I think if I was to consider one of my strengths, it's that determination and desire to be relentless and consistent in wanting to make change. I come from a business background. I come from an entrepreneurial pursuit where I'm leveraging those skills of what I learned to be successful in business and bringing them into what it means to be successful in managing effective mental and physical health. And the key driver for mental and physical health is the vagus nerve. It is quite simply the life force that exists throughout the body. It's the 10th cranial nerve. It's the only nerve that leaves the brain and goes into the whole of the body. It touches all of your organs and it controls everything from how you breathe, the beating of your heart, how your liver and pancreas function, your fight and flight response, and how you feel rested and chilled and relaxed. And we want to try and learn more about the rested and chilled and relaxed, because if you're here, you're hoping for a bit more of that in order to make lasting change. And I was drawn today to come on because today I had a tougher day, a bit of a lower day. You go through life and you're kind of working through challenges and there's stuff going on, and we all have busy lives. And some of you may know I've been working on a book, and we've been working on this for over a year at this stage. And I had a meeting last night with the publisher, and one of the things that the publisher was talking about was that the book was getting too much of a kind of a memoir. It was like the story of my recovery, and it wasn't giving enough actionable tools and change. So we came to a point where we were like, okay, let's pause. I think we're going in the wrong direction, and we're not going to give people what they want. Now, that was a difficult conversation I had to have with my editor today. And then I was in a bit of a rut. I felt pretty low because I was like, oh my God, back to the drawing board. We've got to re-edit. We've got to rethink. We've got to redo chapters. What am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? So I'm going to ask you some questions because you guys can give me some insights for what you want in the book. But it meant then that I felt low, and I haven't felt low in a while. And it's always interesting when it comes, because then I need to work on the tools. And I could feel it today. It was like the mood was low, so I needed to get outside. I needed to get my body moving. So I was out walking and moving, and then I went and dropped into some meditation using some nasal breathing. We're going to talk about that. And then I was doing some qigong bouncing. And we'll talk a little bit about that before we get to the end as well. in order to get the chi, the energy flowing through the body. Some very old, ancient techniques that are really helpful. And then I went and spoke about how I felt, and I had a chat with my wife and a friend, and then my brother. And it's that idea of opening up and being able to talk about it, because a lot of the times what we bottle up consumes us. So there's multiple facets of simple things that I did today that got me back into good shape and positive and thinking, okay, come on, let's get on with it. Let's get this book done. So before I move on, the book, share some thoughts below in the comments about the key things that you would want in the book. You want to know the answers about the vagus nerve. Tell me what it is that you want to know about. I'd love to know the kind of title that would draw you in. What is it that you would love to see as the title of the book? And then what are those insights that you want? Do you want some of my story and then, when I was low on X, Y, and Z times, how I got better and back into good shape? And I think as I speak a lot on podcasts and talk about this topic, one of the things that I think compels people a lot is to realize that when my son Joshua died, it was a pretty low moment in my life. But now I can look back at that, and we're talking 14 years ago, as a blessing, as a moment for change, an opportunity to really understand myself better, to write the manual about myself. And then when I had that manual, it allowed me to then manage myself when things go wrong. So like today, bad day, get the manual out. Let's work through what we need to do, because we'll go into autopilot. And in autopilot, when we're in fight and flight, we revert back to the behaviors of how we grew up. So if you grew up in a challenged environment, if you grew up with stress or trauma around you, when stress and trauma appears in your life today, we often revert back to childhood behaviors. And a lot of the times it's the way that our parents dealt with things is how we deal with things. So you got to have the manual. You've got to have that in case of emergency, break glass. And that's what I want to write. I want to write the manual. I want to give you the insights. So share it below. Just put it all down there. Tell me exactly what you think, what you'd love to read, what you think is missing in the market. We've written so much stuff in the last year. We're now just going to rehash, finesse, and deliver it directly to you. So please do let me know. But today, we're going to talk about a few things, right? We're going to talk about sleep as a foundation for rewiring your brain, breathing as a mechanism to get you out of a fight and flight state, and then meditation and bringing some awareness to what's going on. So in the context of breathing, we're going to talk about nasal breathing. And this is a really important tool. And in the arc of my journey over 10 years of self-discovery, nasal breathing was one of those moments where I was like, wow, game changer. I'll talk a bit about mouth taping, why we mouth tape, what the benefits are, how to do it well, how to do it badly, etc., etc. But let's start with sleep. And for a lot of people, sleep is really hard. And they'll make changes and they go, oh, I've changed this. I've tried to take magnesium at night and I did that for a while. It didn't work. And I've tried a bedtime routine. It didn't work. And I tried this and that and it didn't work. Can I just be really specific? You are going to have to do things consistently and relentlessly for a long enough period to allow your nervous system to start to adapt and change. Your default position is quite often at this point, and certainly if you're watching my content, you're in a stressed state as your default position. And in order to create a new position, you're going to have to be very consistent in terms of the changes and your determination to do those changes consistently over and over again. So if we can start with sleep, I am so unshakable in terms of my sleep pattern. Typically, I'm an early starter, so I like to wake up at 5:15 in the morning. Now, if I want to wake up at 5 or 5:15 in the morning, I need to front load my sleep. So for me, that means 8:30, 8:45, 9:45 from my American friends. I am now thinking about getting into bed. And I know if I follow that routine, that by 9:30, I should be getting to the point where I'm going to go to sleep. When I work with clients at the start and sleep is a struggle, a couple of things we look at. So, magnesium citrate, great research into the benefits of taking magnesium citrate as a sleep aid. Just be very careful about how much magnesium you have in your diet, but you can take like 350 milligrams of magnesium citrate in the evening time, and it has the tendency to keep you asleep. So it tends to just relax the muscles in the body and just relax you, bring the base level down a little bit to help people sleep well. I think as you're building your routine, melatonin as a supplement is really easy. I know here in Ireland, melatonin you can't just buy in a health food shop, but in most other countries, the US, the UK, most European countries, it's readily available. You can buy it as a supplement. And again, I know from working with people and working with nutritionalists as well, that if we have 5 milligrams of melatonin at the start, just as you're getting ready for bed, take your 5 milligrams kind of 20 minutes out because it takes a little bit of time to metabolize into the body. You take your magnesium citrate just as you're going to bed, and that will start to benefit you later on. And then you create a nice environment as well. So it's important to have appropriate lighting. You know, there's a nice lamp here to the side of me. I've got some projection lights on for the camera, but lamp lighting in the room is really important. You want to kind of mimic an environment where it's like the sun is setting, because our eyes and our mind and our nervous system is working in this circadian rhythm. So you don't want any particularly bright lights. And again, this is why if you can avoid too much screen time before you go to bed, really helpful, because that blue light is stimulating the mind, and there's some research to show that it can inhibit the natural melatonin production of the body. So creating a nice environment, creating low lighting in the bedroom, ideally getting off the screens for half an hour before you go to bed, really, really helpful. And then if you're watching TV, try not watch things that are overly stimulating. So, you know, no horror movies or anything triggering politically or sensitive to you and your nature. Try and avoid that stuff as you're going to bed. If reading is your thing, that can be good. You know, it can be, you could be listening to an audiobook as well. That's absolutely fine. But again, when you're reading, try and have nighttime reading as something almost referring back to thinking about how you would read to a child. So we want the book to be nice. You know, you're not going to read your kid a book that's like massively stimulating when they're trying to go and go to sleep. You're going to read them something nice. So we want to try and read something nice as well. So it's all about slowing down. It's like bringing the plane into land. Let's kind of chill the environment, chill the lighting, chill the mood, bring it all down. I was working with a doctor recently. We were talking about hydration, and he was recommending that you try and stop hydrating your body by about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon in order to avoid having to go for a pee during the middle of the night. I found that to be really beneficial, and I think the way that you just manage yourself throughout the day is obviously maintain hydration, because again, hydration is really important for your nervous system. If you are dehydrated, your body moves into fight and flight because it wants you to take action to hydrate. And often we don't notice what that action is. And ironically, when we're dehydrated, we tend to eat sugary foods, when actually if we just hydrate, we don't want to eat. So maintaining hydration throughout the day is really, really important. But maybe just tapering off so that by 5 o'clock, you've got little or no additional hydration coming on. My wife has used the same approach and found it to be really beneficial as well. So you're moving to that point where you've set yourself up well. Ideally, you want to finish your last meal, a few hours before you sleep. I tend to eat at about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then I tend to go to bed at 8:30. So there's a good couple of hours before I'm trying to go to sleep. So my body's had some time to digest. And again, think about digestion. It's rest and digest. And rest and digest is the parasympathetic state. So we want our body resting. We want digestion to have worked its way through quite nicely. And then we're getting ready for bed. And then just having a tidy environment. So don't have clutter around your bedroom. Don't have your room in a place where your mind is feeling that it's drawn to, a messy surfaces or things strewn around the place. So again, try and create a space that you feel really chilled and comfortable in. And that's a superb nighttime routine. It's not going to work the first time, and you're going to have to stick at it. And you're going to have to stick at it for weeks. When I went to change my sleeping routine, it probably took me, 4 or 5 months. But then what actually happens is your body's natural rhythm kicks in. So the circadian rhythm is quite extraordinary. It then kicks in. Now, I don't use an alarm clock. I haven't used an alarm clock in years. Once I go to bed at the same time, I'll wake up at the same time. It all works really well. I don't vary at the weekends, so I tend to just work on the same protocols throughout the week. And I know this is hard because people want to socialize and go out and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine, right? But if you're chronically ill and if you're chronically stressed, you are going to have to sacrifice some of that for some of this. If you want to feel good, you're going to have to make some tough calls, tough changes. And socializing, late nights, and not enough sleep are massive triggers for your stress levels, as is alcohol. Okay, give that some consideration. We'll touch on that again in our next episode. But I gave up alcohol for the very reason that I knew it was directly contributing to my fight and flight state, and I had to go. I'll leave that with you for this moment to think about. But what I want you to do is, if you're taking notes and you're thinking about your sleep routine, know that you're going to have to stick to it for days, weeks, and months. Don't give up. Stay strong. Okay? Breathing. When I'm in bed and I've got the nice lamps and I'm chilled and I'm reading, that's when I tape my mouth. I've taped my mouth for years. I use zinc oxide tape. Again, do some research into the types of tape that you should use for mouth taping. I've trained in the Buteyko clinic. I'm a practitioner qualified with the Buteyko clinic all around nasal breathing and the techniques. And really the key thing that I focused on is mouth taping at the start. And a question as to whether or not you should mouth tape, one simple way to do it is, if your mouth is dry in the morning when you wake up, then you are breathing through your mouth throughout the night. And a lot of people today in the modern world are breathing through their mouth. If you snore, you breathe through your mouth. But just notice if your mouth is not dry and moist in the morning, you are sucking air in through your mouth. If you mouth tape, what's really interesting is the level of moisture in your mouth when you go to sleep is nearly exactly the same as the level of moisture in your mouth when you wake up in the morning. So when we nasal breathe, what we actually do is we slow down the amount of air that we're sucking in, because there's only so much air you can suck in through your nasal passages because they're smaller. And equally, we slow down the amount of air that we throw out because, again, it's a smaller place to breathe in and out of. But in addition, we create nitric oxide, which is a natural relaxant. And I think it's in blood pressure medication. They mimic nitric oxide. And for men, nitric oxide is critical for your erections. And some sexual medication that we buy actually has the nitric oxide in there to help it. So it thins the blood and allows the blood to flow better and faster. And that's critical because a lot of the times with erectile dysfunction, the challenges are that the smaller parts of the body and the extremities don't tend to get the blood. So a lot of people will have um, erectile dysfunction, and they might also have Raynaud's. So they have problems with blood flow to the tips of the fingers or their toes, and also to the penis. Nitric oxide, very helpful in this regard. So it has other benefits. But what I always say to people is if you want to really improve your heart rate variability, if you want to improve your vagal tone, if you want to access more parasympathetic living, mouth taping allows you to almost kind of proverbial lift dumbbells at night in terms of better breathing whilst doing nothing but sleeping. And in addition, most people find that they sleep better and longer when they mouth tape. Of course, it's challenging at the start, right? When you started, for the first few days when I work with people, you'll wake up an hour, 2 hours later, and the tape is ripped off and it's on the floor, or you find it stuck on the wall or whatever, right? So it takes days of consistency. Notice this theme: consistency. It takes days of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then eventually your body gets used to this bit of mouth tape. And zinc oxide tape is what I use because it's pleasant on the skin. It's not damaging to your lips. It's safe to be in contact with your body. And it's also easy to move. So really, if you struggle at all and you literally open your mouth, the zinc oxide tape just comes off. So it's not like we're trying to clasp our mouth shut. Not at all. We're just trying to teach the nervous system, the body, to keep the mouth closed throughout sleep. I was amazed at this change when I implemented it first a few years ago. And then I went and trained in these particular techniques because I just found it astounding. I do a lot of work with athletes now where we use nasal breathing as a mechanism to improve their athletic score and to help them become more resilient in terms of longevity of training. There's a lot of marathon runners now who nasal breathe. So there's a lot of potential high performance upsides. But in its simplest form, you're going to sleep better. You're going to be in a more relaxed state. And you're going to get benefits in terms of how you feel in the morning. But it's going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to get it right. So we got to get into wake up, show up, do the work, right? So you're going to have to be consistent on it. You're going to realize that the tape's going to come off a bunch of times. You're going to put it back on again, and you're going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And in particular, when you're taping, you just want to have the tape across the lips. And what I tend to do is put them across the lips, and then I kind of close down a little bit on it so that when I then move my lips, they feel like they're just stuck together. And away we go. Don't overthink it. Don't make it too complicated. Just start doing it and see how you feel. If you have questions on it, pop the questions below and I will answer. I try my best to always talk to the community, so please feel free to put questions below and I will respond. But nasal breathing then is something that I incorporate into the other parts of what I do. So when we talk about meditation, for me, it's critical that I also bring meditation and nasal breathing together. So as of today, when I said I'm feeling stressed, a bit low about, oh my God, where's the book going and what's going to happen next and blah, 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 blah. I drop in, slow down my breathing. I use 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out, all nasal breathing. So I keep my mouth closed. My meditation practice tends to be 12 or 15 minutes, usually in the morning. I'll do another session maybe in the afternoon. I'll probably do another session when I finish this video now. And I'm really just dropping in, closing my eyes, finding a comfortable position to sit on a chair. You can lie on the floor. But I'm using nasal breathing. And if you can imagine how nasal breathing is the complete opposite of mouth breathing. And a lot of times, if you think about it, if somebody was to frighten us, if somebody jumped in front of me right now and I didn't expect them, I wouldn't breathe in through my nose out of shock. I wouldn't go, I would go. So we suck air in through the mouth. And when we do that, we're almost ringing the alarm bell of the fight and flight system. And interestingly, we can't generate nitric oxide by breathing in through our mouth because the nitric oxide is generated in a chamber that runs off through our nasal passages. So breathing through the nose improves and moves us into that rested and parasympathetic state. And maintaining the consistency works really well. So there's a bunch of videos on my channel where I do 5-minute, 10-minute, 15, 20-minute guided sessions. I'll put a link up here. Drop in, put your headphones on, give it a listen, and see how it feels. I think you'll be surprised at the benefits. And let's not overthink meditation at this point, right? I just want you to think more about breathing techniques to access the nervous system. And if you compound these topics, if we take nasal breathing, if we take better sleep, and if we take meditation, each one of these is a huge pillar to improve heart rate variability, to improve vagal tone. And as a consequence, these numbers matter because they're all plugged in and connected in terms of how well you feel. If you use a Whoop band or an Aura ring or an Apple Watch, you can track your heart rate variability, which is kind of helpful because you can then start to make some of these changes and then see how they play out over time. But also, when you bring some of these changes in, start journaling. Just notice how you feel at the start, what's going on, what are the challenges that you find as you move through it, see how it all feels. I have a course, 21-day course that may or may not be helpful for you. Hundreds of people, probably thousands, have been through it at this stage. I'll put a link to the course, and you can see if that rigor and routine and structure of being part of a process with me every day for 21 days. We've got I think half an hour, 40 minutes every day where I give guided content. We have insights, deeper insights into the vagus nerve and into the neuroscience and psychology. So if that's helpful, give it a look. Pop a link below, and you can follow a link here on the website or promo here on the website. Anyway, so back to the topic I opened with, why today was a difficult day. I've written the book. It was moving into being a bit of a memoir on my recovery and how I got well after Joshua's death. But what would you like to see? What's your biggest challenge? What are you Googling? How did you find me, right? I need these insights so that we can make sure we write the right book for the right people. Comment below, let me know, and please subscribe. Please like this comment, please share this with people, but please subscribe to the channel because it gets more eyes on this content. And this is free. This stuff I'm putting out is completely free. I want other people to benefit from how I made changes in my life. I know how miserable I felt. I was at my wit's end, suicidal and lost. And now I get to live a life where I find joy and appreciation. Sometimes it's hard. But when it's hard, I've built a manual, I open it up, and I walk myself out of the hardship back into the light. My name is Justin Caffrey. thank you for being here. I hope whatever is happening for you, wherever you are on your journey, that you will find peace, hope, opportunity for change, and the willingness and determination to implement that consistency. Remember that word. Be resilient, be consistent, wake up, show up, do the work. Till next time.